Aw. He's there to calm you down. He's gonna calm your anger.
Who said I was angry? Who said I was angry? Hey everybody, good to be with you. So this video, I want to talk about the reasons. How did I categorize this? I did a poll in our Mormon Enlightenment group, which has almost 5,000 members in it now, people that are questioning the Mormon Church or have left the Mormon Church. And I just asked people, I'll tell you exactly what I asked them. Top 10 things that the Mormon Church should apologize for, okay? Because historically, the Mormon Church does not apologize for anything. They just don't apologize. In fact, one of the apostles, he's next in line to be the prophet, Dallin H. He actually has come out and said that, you know, we don't seek apologies and we don't give them. He basically has said that we don't give apologies. We don't say sorry. And so even something as grotesque and, you know, just illegal and I mean, it's historical, Mountain Meadows Massacre, even that, they have never formally apologized for it. They said that they regret it, which to me is not taking it far enough. Like, anybody that has good ethics and morals and values, you say you're sorry when you've done something wrong, okay? But they don't want to admit fault. So top 10 things. We had a poll. We asked a whole bunch of questions. We gave a lot of poll options in terms of what do you wish that the Mormon Church would apologize for. And I'm not going to go into great depth with each one of these. I might, you know, add just a little bit of commentary here or there concerning these points. But I thought you might be interested because we got a lot of votes, a lot of participation. It's a really active group. And these are the top 10 things that they wish that the Mormon Church would apologize for. So I'll go ahead and kick it off. The number one thing that we, as questioning or post-Mormons, think that the Mormon Church should apologize for is hushing sexual abuse victims and not offering support for them. You know this hits home for me because of my story, which was featured in the New York Times on the front page of my sexual abuse when I was a child. And yes, the Mormon Church did hush it. They did try to keep it quiet. They didn't want it out in the media. And the guy did receive very little in terms of penalty, and he actually received zero support and counseling and therapy around, even though he was a church employee, he was a professor at BYU and stayed on for another 6 years. I do wish the Mormon Church would say sorry to me. Why? Because they never offered me any kind of counseling or support, me the child. But beyond that, they never even showed up on my doorstep to say, hey, we are so sorry that this happened to you. Not that they did it to me, but just offer some kind of support, some kind of remorse, some kind of concern, anything. There was none. So that's unfortunate. Well, when it comes to these things, the church likes to protect its reputation, and admitting fault from their point of view, becomes they become liable, and then you get into all kinds of big problems. So, but even more so, they're worried about their image, and that's why they pay out settlements in the tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars to hush sexual abuse victims and keep them quiet. You can go look up on Mormon Leaks. They posted a leak of all of these settlements that were leaked from Curtin McConkie, which is the church's legal division, and it blows your mind how many settlements happen on a yearly basis. It's insane. They just pay them off, and then part of the agreement is you can't talk about it. You can never take it to the media. That's what they want, is settlements. Instead of formally apologizing, they use hush money. Number two, bigotry towards LGBTQ. So bigotry towards lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and questioning. This one is a given. Nobody, I can't think of anybody that suffered more as a result of antiquated doctrine than people who fall into one of those categories. These people, in fact, the church for years has done horrible things. They actually used to do behavioral modification. They used to do shock therapy, electric therapy, all kinds of horrible things, even at BYU back in, I think it was the 70s, to try to convert people that had same-sex gender attraction. They would try to switch them. And they would show them images of people who were, same sex, nude images, and then they would shock their genitals, and it's horrible. It's really bad. But beyond that, I think it was Spencer W. Kimball, correct me if I'm wrong, but who in the Miracle Forgiveness might have been, or one of the early versions of that. Can't remember exactly, but for sure the church leader at the time said that masturbating would cause you to become a homosexual. There is so much trauma and history around this with the Mormon Church, and it's really unfortunate because the Mormon Church only more recently has acknowledged that people are born gay. It's only recent. For years and years and years, they actually treated it like it was this gross sin and it was a perversion and that people were choosing it. Even today, they still, even though they acknowledge that people are born gay and they don't know why, but they still take this hardliner approach of, if you act on those propensities, if you act on those attractions, then you are going to face church discipline. How many people have committed suicide? How many people have literally ended their life because they feel so out of sorts and they can't fit in and they can't make their God happy or proud? This is a real problem. And Proposition 8, it goes so deep. And I would love to see the church reverse course around this and just apologize. Apologize to the families that you've divided over this issue. Apologize to the people who have lost loved ones over this issue. Apologize because you owe an apology. You owe an apology for even just saying that, okay, we acknowledge that they were born that way, then apologize for all the hardliner stances you took in the past towards the issue, acting like you knew what was going on when you didn't. Just apologize. Just at least acknowledge that you don't have any divine inspiration from God giving you any kind of revelation or any kind of guidance around the issue. You don't have a clue. So apologize. Protecting sexual predators was number 3 that came in. People want the church to apologize for protecting sexual predators. Oh, I'm going to get really passionate about this. How many times in the news have we seen it where bishops, MTC president, now temple presidents are popping up, high councilmen, they do these horrific things, and once again, because the church is more motivated towards protecting their image than they are towards helping and supporting victims, and they have the money and the means to support victims, but instead they do all kinds of things to protect sexual predators. And a lot of these guys stay in power, and a lot of them continue to abuse others. I have a real problem with it. So not only should it stop, you have to stop it. Okay, if ever a leader or anybody in a position of trust is ever accused of such, you have to stop the abuse from occurring moving forward. You have to stop one-on-one interviews. You have to do that. That's probably one of our points, though. But you have got to say sorry to those original victims who reported the perpetrators and nothing came of it and they were not stopped. And you have got to say sorry to those victims, and you've got to say sorry to the general public for exposing them and their children to victims. There are people in church taking the sacrament that shouldn't be. And the church knows about these people, just like they knew about Joseph Bishop, and they continue to have full fellowship, and they continue to have high positions in the church, and that is wrong. Say you're sorry and fix it. Whoa, shame and guilt. This is number 4. Shame and guilt arising from purity culture. Okay, so shame and guilt arising from the purity culture. What that means is that we want you to say sorry for taking people who have done things that everybody does. Like any leader in the church would acknowledge that they've all masturbated. Earth-shattering news. Probably every human being on the face of the earth that's gone through puberty and adolescence and so forth, and through those teen years, those developmental years, sexually, they've all masturbated. It's just common sense. But when you tell people that those things are forbidden and bad and evil, and what's sad about that is there's some of your own sexual experts, like I listened to a podcast and one of your own employed sexual experts has said that the sex education in the church is almost non-existent and it's archaic, and you've got to be corrected because you're hurting people. And so it's a really scary thing when people are, teens, and they're in a room with a one-on-one with a man who has no professional training around sex education. He has no professional training around counseling and therapy for such, and yet he's looking at a teenage daughter, or like I have a 14-year-old daughter, a teenage girl, and he's asking her, have you ever masturbated? Some of these people are 12 years old, 10 years old, and they'll say things like, what is that? I don't know, what is that? The bishop will proceed to tell them what it is, and then ask them if they do it. It gets so bad that some of these girls come in at 16, 17, and they've been, they've done things with their boyfriends. They've petted or what have you, and because they want to be right in the eyes of God, they confess these things to the bishop, who's supposed to be that that person that helps them repent and get back on track. And it goes so far that I haven't heard this just once or twice. I think I've probably heard this now on hundreds of occasions where bishops literally asked people if they orgasmed, and asked young women in a one-on-one setting with no windows and no video camera, how did it feel? Did you orgasm? How did that feel? This should be illegal. This should be criminal. Say you're sorry and fix it. Stop shaming people for things that everybody's going to do. Stop. And that's why we want sexually explicit questions to just stop. Just stop. Stop it. And stop pretending like people who are aroused sexually and like me with my wife. We had premarital sex. We're open about it. We were honest about it. We went into the bishop. Don't make people publicly humiliated for doing things that almost everybody does. Come to find out, after leaving the Mormon church, probably the majority of people that get married in the temple have had some form of premarital sex beforehand and lied and hid it. The honest ones are punished. Apologize to them. Because for instance, why am I passionate about the issue? Because I lived for how many years feeling like I was out of sorts. Something was wrong with me. Why did I have those motivations? Why did I have those attractions? Why does that feel good to me? What's wrong with me, God? Take it away. Nothing was wrong with me. It's perfectly normal. But you guys have villainized it. You guys have made it evil and horrible. And you know what? It's not. Oh, if you only knew the stories that I'm aware of people that have been harmed by this sexual purity culture. People that feel like, you know, like they were just unrighteous and that they were bad people and that they're not worthy and that God doesn't love them. You have no idea. It messes people up. And if you had any kind of education around sexual things, or if you listen to your own sex therapists that are telling you you've got it all wrong, then you would stop. But apologize to all the people that you hurt. Apologize to people like me or my wife that literally feel like, you know, for all our lives felt like we're bad people. We're not bad people. The people doing it to us might be, but we're not, because it's wrong to do that to people. Okay, next one. Asking children and teens sexually explicit questions. So we kind of covered this. But guys, it should be illegal and you got to stop. But beyond that, you should apologize because you have put children in a very traumatic, I will call it an abusive situation. I have heard stories that would just blow your mind what these bishops have done in a manipulative way to control young people. It's wrong. I had it happen to me, even as an adult. I had a stake president that says to me, does your wife do this? I says, well, I thought what happens in my own bedroom was my business. He goes, oh, no, we need to talk about these things. It's wrong. Stop it and apologize. Apologize to all the parents who trusted you with their children and just blindly followed and allowed you to talk to their children about sexual things, which is abusive. You'd better stop, and you ought to apologize to everyone that's ever had a worthiness issue. You ought to apologize for it. Even just as recent as last year, my daughter was called in for a worthiness interview. My wife says, no, she can't come in by herself. Her father won't allow that. I have to be there. So my wife went with her. Guess what? A little ways into it, the bishopric member looks at my wife and says, you have to leave now. You have to go. We need to talk about some things, just your daughter and I. My wife says, oh, I thought I was allowed to be here. No, not for this part. And my wife was forced to leave, and it was traumatic for my wife, and she had to hide it from me because she knew how I would have lost my mind. Should be illegal. Mormon members, if you watch this, stop it. Petition to stop it. They'll listen to you. Don't let them do this garbage. They're just gaining control. It's mind control. It's brainwashing. Okay, the next one. Denying African Americans the priesthood. So I'm not going to go into all the history around that. In fact, there's a great video that says top 50 problems with the Mormon church, and they go into great depth on YouTube about all the different, history and everything behind every one of those 50 issues. It's amazing. Bottom line is, the Mormon church was unbelievably racist. Look up what Brigham Young said about black people. He actually said something like, well, obviously the Book of Mormon, for one, said that people who had black skin were cursed, and they were basically less than the people that had white skin. It was a curse that was put upon them, and because of sin and iniquity, and so they carry that curse. Brigham Young even said that anybody like a white person that would get sexually involved with someone with dark skin, something about they should get their heads cut off. Like literally should be decapitated, hung around the neck, something like that. There was so much racism, it wasn't even funny. In fact, yes, the black people were able to get the priesthood, I think it was 1978. But it's not like it came out of a loving revelation. No, like God decided all of a sudden that he should love black people. No, it wasn't like that, guys. It was all relative to the civil rights movement and all of that kind of stuff, that ultimate pressures. I think the church was even going to lose its tax-exempt status, which they were very, very in love with. So, do your research, but bottom line is, racism in the church even exists today. If you're in Utah, which I am, and all the wards around here are predominantly white, you'll see a lot of racism. In fact, I've talked to minorities, and they say that they don't even feel like they exist. As they go around and they participate in this or that, or in communities, people don't even talk to them. Okay, it's a real thing and it has to stop. But you should say sorry. Did you ever say sorry for denying blacks the priesthood in the first place? In fact, I think you said that they could never enter the celestial kingdom as but they could potentially get there as servants. You look it up, but it's something like that. Something ridiculous and terrible. Women's inequality. Okay, so we just learned that as a result of Revelation on January 2019, that women no longer have to go through their husbands to get to the Lord in the temple. Yay! Women don't have to veil their faces anymore. What people don't know is it coincided exactly with the release of my story, which was the temple video director had sexually abused me, and my story broke in February, 1 month after the temple changes that removed the temple videos. Whoa, what a crazy coincidence. No, it wasn't a coincidence. You pulled the videos because you were embarrassed that your temple video director was a known pedophile, known to you as a pedophile, and you've continued to use him all these years, haven't you? You used him all those years to do work for you. Probably leveraged him, I don't know. But it pisses me off, bottom line. And you know what? You should say sorry about that. You should say, sorry we used a known pedophile to do the temple videos. Not cool to do the sacred endowment videos, a pedophile. Where was the discernment? There is none. So you should say sorry for that. But on women's equality, they're all celebrating, yay! Oh, God finally realized that women could witness baptisms. God finally has acknowledged that women have eyeballs and can see someone get baptized. Woohoo! But so can children. So can 12-year-old kids. So they're no better than them, are they? Women can't even hold their own babies during a baby blessing. They hold no meaningful callings. Guys, it's not right. The women don't even know it's happening to them in the Mormon church. They're told, oh, being a mother is the most sacred calling. You should be happy with that. They serve on no meaningful boards. They make no meaningful decisions. They have no ownership. Nothing. Okay? Nothing. In fact, it wasn't until recent years, I think it was like 2011, that a woman was finally allowed to give a prayer in the General Conference. They weren't even allowed to pray. I mean, this is like back when the United States or whatever, they didn't even acknowledge that women could read, and they certainly couldn't vote. They weren't as intelligent. Like, guys, come on. We're in the 21st century. We should have women's equality, but first, you should apologize to all the women who have dealt with every single day the unrighteous dominion of their husbands in their own homes, their husbands saying, I make the money, I provide, and you do everything else. Sorry. And I know that exists, and you all know that exists. Say you're sorry to the women. Just say you're sorry. No, giving them cushy chairs in Relief Society ain't enough. Say you're sorry because you don't value the women. Joseph's polygamy cover-up. So I was a member of the church my whole life. I never knew that Joseph Smith was a polygamist. That was never taught to me. I went on a mission for 2 years and I taught people about Joseph Smith every day. I never knew that Joseph Smith, he actually married women and had them sealed to him, but without his wife's knowledge, without her consent, and he did it repeatedly. And I think you have to look up the number because there's so many different statistics, but the guy had, I think, 30 verified additional wives, plural marriage. Some of these women, some of these girls, and as many as 50 is what they say. It's between somewhere 30 and 50, but bottom line is the guy, he took 14 and 15-year-old girls as his wives. Did he have sex with them? You're damn right he did. He even took sisters from families. He even went so far as to send men on missions. Okay? Let me give you one story. He took a man's wife had died and he had children. Joseph Smith, you know what he did? He says to the guy, you know what? You've been called to be a missionary. The guy goes, oh gosh, Joseph, I can't leave my family. My wife just died. He goes, don't worry. I'll take care of your kids as if they were my own. They'll live in my house and I'll take care of them. Sends the guy on a mission, takes that guy's teenage daughter as his bride. The guy comes home. He's promised eternal blessings. I don't know. Bottom line is he also sent guys on missions, took their wives as brides. It's called polyandry. Look it up. He actually would send men, married men on missions, and while they were gone, he would go lay claim to their wives. The guy was perverted. He was a pervert. He used religion as a way to get what he ultimately wanted, which was grotesque and perverse. So I didn't know any of this. I didn't have a clue. And the church has acknowledged Joseph Smith's polygamy, although they only say that it was spiritual marriages. They won't acknowledge that he actually had sex. But Oliver Cowdery saw him having sex in a barn. He witnessed it with his own eyes and he reported it, called it a filthy affair. But the church would just say, oh yeah, well these were just spiritual marriages. He would just seal to them. It's a joke, but yeah, you can go to the church essays on their own website and read about polygamy. Just say you're sorry. Say you're sorry for hiding it from us. Say you're sorry that you didn't come forward with that information long, long ago and make that information available from the beginning. Just apologize. Try that. Dehumanizing people in worthiness interviews and disciplinary councils. Now what that is you've got guys who are imperfect, and even your most beloved prophets and apostles, these guys are just men. They don't talk to God. They have publicly acknowledged that they don't talk to God. Okay, everybody wants to glorify them and pretend that they walk on water. And, these guys, oh my gosh, they don't even ever sin. And they have like miraculous memories. They can memorize the whole Bible. No, they're men. Why do you think they're so inaccessible? Because familiarity breeds contempt. They love that autonomy because it makes people think they're so special because they're untouchable. If you got to know them, like I know people that have got to know them, apostles have been caught masturbating to their laptops in their own offices by their assistants. These are just men. And a lot of them are greedy, egotistical men. I'm not afraid to say it because I know what they did to me and I know the trauma that the church caused me. I know the trauma that those disciplinary councils caused me. I had to sit in front of 15 men and sit there and plead my case because I'd had premarital sex with the woman I loved. And they treated me like I was an animal. It's supposed to be called a court of love. It's not loving. They sit there and they look at you and they treat you like, well, you were endowed. You served a mission. How could this be? How could you let this happen? And yet some of those guys in there, let me tell you, they're guilty of some pretty grotesque things that they've never confessed. And yet me, the honest person, because the honest people in the church get penalized. The honest people in the church get dealt with. And the liars get elevated and the liars advance and they get higher positions and bigger callings and more esteem and more acclaim. The liars, the honest, no. You're punished, you're belittled, you're dehumanized. I don't even want to tell you what they said to me in that one. What they said to me that made me feel like I wasn't even a human being. And yet they sit there and they act like they're emissaries of Christ. Christ's chosen vessels. Shit. Last one. No financial transparency. The Mormon Church, it was leaked by Mormon Leaks that the Mormon Church has $32 billion in stock. Okay, that's one stock portfolio. It's funny that they oppose so badly. They oppose cannabis, medical cannabis in Utah. Come to find out that they own a lot, millions and millions of dollars in pharmaceutical drug stock. Of course they oppose cannabis, okay? But the Mormon Church, they get away with a lot of garbage because they've got so many of their church members in high levels of legislation, high levels of politics, all throughout Utah. I think I heard on one point it was 70% of all the legislation and politics, political positions are LDS, and that's used to probably be 90 to 100%. They could get away with anything. Okay. Bottom line is, the Mormon Church sticks its nose in politics. They stick their nose in state matters. They have power. They have control because they have money. And they're taking your money under the guise of tithing. You guys need to go to mormonthink.com and look up tithing on mormonthink.com and read that. Tithing isn't what you think it is. Tithing never was what you think it is. Tithing was never meant to be paid on your net or your gross. Look it up.
Aw, he's there to calm you down. He's going to calm your anger.
Who said I was angry? Who said I was angry? Anyways, it's so messed up because the church has like a non-profit arm and then they have a for-profit arm. And when you start to learn about like, where does tithing funds go? Go look up my tithing post that I did on Facebook and it went viral and it had 1,500 shares. Go look that up on my wall and read that because I provide references about what the church does with the money. I went out and taught that the church actually has lay clergy. I actually taught for 2 years to thousands of people, baptized so many people, telling them that we were one of the only religions that had non-paid clergy, that money, filthy lucre was not acceptable, and you could never do things for pay. Listen, the church is full of crap. They actually pay a lot of their tip top. Their general authorities get paid and a lot of money. And so it's good for you to know that, but go research that. Go look up tithing on Mormon Think. Bottom line is the church should probably lose its tax exempt status because they don't do enough good with the money. Once you're aware of how little they actually use for charity and for emergencies and natural disasters and stuff, people go, oh, we donated so much. They don't realize when you're bringing in $8 billion a year in tithing revenue, whatever it is, you got to do a lot more good than that. You can't just be paying to build new temples and paying to, for all your clergy and stuff like that. It doesn't work. So I noticed myself getting really angry during all of this, and I'm sorry for that because I don't want to be an angry person. These issues really, really supercharge me. I suffered a lot of abuse and trauma as a result of my membership in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I want the church to apologize for all of these things. Beyond that, we'll call these, honorable mention. Shaming women for immodesty. Suicide rates amongst kids ages 10 to 17, tops in the nation. Joseph Smith's translation of the Book of Mormon being a lie. The way he translated it, never used the brass plates, never used the Urim and Thummim, just stuck his head in a hat and used an old treasure digging stone that he used to use to fraud people. Women having to go through their husbands to get to God until 2019 for getting involved in politics, taking money from hurting people instead of helping people. Putting children along with men, multiple First Visions accounts, 9 First Visions accounts, no paid ministry, damning doctrine directed at those that leave the faith. That's a big one for me. Say sorry for damning people that leave your church. Let them leave. Just let them leave and wish them well, but don't damn them. And your doctrine damns us, and I don't appreciate it. You should probably say you're sorry for that too. I'll be looking forward to the apologies. There's a lot of them. I mean, we've got a big, big list of things that really you should say sorry for. If you ever want to be on good terms with people like us and our group, it's time to do what Christ would do, and that's actually to do the right thing and say you're sorry because you've hurt a lot of people, including myself and my wife and so many of my loved ones. You've hurt us, and it's not right. And you've done it all in the name of religion. You've done it all in the name of revelation. Whenever things change and you have to make a little course correction, you just say, oh, well, that was the way it was supposed to be for a time, but God's changed his mind. No, you shouldn't be able to do that. If you really are the one and only true church on the face of the earth with the keys and all that, and you really have that one person that can speak to God directly, you shouldn't be so screwed up and have so many horrible, horrible mistakes on your record. So say you're sorry, and hopefully we can get on good terms again. Thanks.